Hi, it's March. I'm back. And I'm here to talk to you about all of the books I read in February. I finished 8 books this February and I talked about them in my last video, so I did accomplish that goal of reading the books that I had listed, which is great. In no particular order, I finished Thorn of Glass, which is the first book in a series by Sarah J. Maas. It's been really popular for a long time, and I feel like these books are old. I'm gonna see what the publishing date. I'm just on my Goodreads. Yes, Thorn of Glass came out in 2012, so it's been out a long time, and I don't even know if it's done yet. I think there's 4 books. This is how bad I am at stuff like this. I am very behind on this. Overall, 3 out of 5. I did really like it. I'm very excited to read the rest, but was it like an epic, grand book? Not really. It really followed a formula of YA, which was a little disappointing for me, but I did like the fantasy elements of it. I like the world that Sarah J. Maas has created. I'm excited to read the other ones and get on the hype train. In my quest to read a biography about every president, I finished George Washington last month, so it's on to John Adams. What a guy. The book itself wasn't that great. David McCullough is a great author, but I feel like after reading the Washington biography, which I think won some award, I'm really terrible at this. I do not prep for these things. That book, The Washington of Life, was with Ron Chernow, was amazing. Like, it went so far in depth. I feel like I really did not know our first president at all, and I truly appreciated reading that book, even if I didn't like what I was hearing sometimes. A little full of himself, which I do not appreciate, and a little bit of a faker, you know? He was putting out this persona, wasn't quite right. Now, John Adams got a lot of shit from everybody for being like grumpy and like a little bit like full of himself, but at least he knew it. He was the hardest critic of himself, and I can totally appreciate that. I really liked reading about Adams. I like him as a person much better than Washington, having never met both in my life. And I can tell you from them talking about Jefferson quite a bit in Washington and Adams' biography, Jefferson is a dick, and I'm not looking forward to reading his biography next. I always thought Jefferson was going to be really cool, and I guess I just didn't know that much about him, because the more I hear about him in these other 2 books, the more I'm like, wow, not a fan. Go figure. So stay tuned for next month. I'll be sharing my thoughts of Thomas Jefferson with you. I'm sure they will be negative. The next book I read was a collection of short stories by Ray Bradbury. I'd never read anything besides Fahrenheit 451 from Ray Bradbury, so I was really excited to read this. This collection is called The Day It Rained Forever. 4 out of 5, really good, really good. I was surprised how much I liked this collection. There was a few misses, but mostly hits. And each new one sucked you in, and I was so sad when one ended and another began. I was like, damn, I wanted to know more about this world you created, Ray Bradbury. How dare you? Really good and very positive from that. And so I'm really going to try and look and see if there's any more Ray Bradbury that might interest me. I finally got around to it. I read Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick is one of my favorites. I really loved her since she was in Up in the Air with George Clooney. Like, that scene at the airport where she has this like mental breakdown is one of my favorites. And then I was like, hey, that girl looks familiar. Isn't she in Twilight? And so she talks a little bit about that in her book. Basically, the book is super honest about her personality and her and just. It's great. She no holds barred in a few places. You're like, you're gonna tell us that, okay. Now we know a lot about you. I thought it was brave and funny and cool, and I really loved the book. And she has this great observance of people that drive stick shifts, which aren't all bad, but there's some of you out there that drive 5-speed cars, and you, or the standard if you're in Europe, and I swear to God, some of you just are such fucking assholes about it. Like, you know, not everybody needs to know how to drive a stick, and you're not a better person because you know how to drive a stick. I can still get around in an automatic just fine. Sorry, I don't love the thrill of driving around in a car like you seem to. So go Anna Kendrick. Loved this book. So fun to learn more about her, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. I did it. I finally, after taking like nearly a year off from the Arcana Chronicles by Cressley Cole, I finally got around to reading 3.5, which is right in between book 3 and 4, which 4 I'm reading next month. I forgot how much I really like this series. Cressley Cole, I'm not super huge into adult romance, like dirty adult romance, but I'll tell you, Cressley Cole can write a dirty adult romance and really well, like character development and like storylines and fantasy arcs and like pulling it all together. Immortals After Dark is one of my favorite series. And yes, it is like, do not read it if you're under 18. But she ended up writing a YA series that was also fantasy, which was the Arcana Chronicles. And she's almost done. I think book 5 is coming out this spring. So I want to catch up really quick. I have one more book and I have book 4 to read, but it's been such a wild ride. I love the series, and I'm glad I took a little bit of time off so I don't have to wait so much for the last book. But you know, the 3.5, I didn't realize it was 3.5. I thought I was reading the next book, but it was cool to go back and see all the characters and on day 0, which was like, you know, day of the apocalypse in these books. So see all the characters, learn a little bit more about them and kind of get refreshed from not having read it in a year. So I think I gave that a 3 out of 5 just because I was like, oh, it's, I didn't realize it was like a 0.5 book. But really enjoyable, very excited to read the rest of these books. I love Cressley Cole so much, not embarrassed at all to say it. She is a badass. So if you're wondering, if you're under 18 and you want to know what Cressley Cole's all about, you should read the Arcana Chronicles. And then when you feel like you are mature enough, you should read her Immortals After Dark series. And the last book I read was This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is the last Fitzgerald book I had to read. Now I feel like I've read all of his collected works. I might be missing some short stories, but I feel like I've read every novel that he did. I hope I'm not lying, but I think I did. I gave This Side of Paradise 3 out of 5. It was Fitzgerald's first book that he ever read. He wrote it when he was 23 or something. Oh, it just makes you feel really unaccomplished in your life. But I really liked reading it. It was not as good as Beautiful and the Damned. It was not as good as Gatsby, obviously. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and it reminded me so much of A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, but like actually readable. Go figure. And I think he actually probably pulled a lot of influence from that. Overall, if you're a Fitzgerald fan, you should read it. It's cool to see how his work has progressed. I kind of wish I'd started with this one and then like actually done it in the order it was written in. Instead I read the best first and then the weakest last, but still really good. I'm glad I know a little bit more about Fitzgerald and a little bit well-rounded in his works. So that's what I read in February. I did not plan last time I made what I read in January. I knew what I was going to read for February. I don't know what I'm going to read yet for March, and it's March 1st. So I have some work to do, but I'm going to read some books, and then you'll just have to come back next month and I'll tell you what I read and we'll talk about it, and let me know in the comments what you've read, and we'll just get this, you know, monthly book review thing going. Train chugging, chug along book thing. Okay, bye.